So I'm sitting here in my hotel room in LA getting ready for a photo shoot. By the way, how do I look? Do I look okay? If the wardrobe department doesn't like me, they're going to have a hell of a time trying to change what I'm wearing around this hair. That hair took like 25 minutes this morning. It's basically glued into place. Anyways, but I'm sitting here preparing, and part of the show that I'm on requires me to take on a cover identity, to go undercover, take on a cover story, and try to convince people that my cover story is real. And as I'm sitting here in the hotel room prepping for that event, to be on live television, to be on recorded television, and have to try to convince these people that I am not who I am, I'm reminded that I haven't taught you how to build a cover story, or more importantly, how to crack a cover story. So that's what this whole video is about: how to build a cover story, and then, of course, if you think someone's lying to you, how to break their cover story. So it's going to be really short, it's going to be really simple, but hopefully it'll be fun. So first, to build the cover story, what you have to do is you have to think through something logical and simple. We have a rule at the agency where the best lies are only 5 degrees away from truth. So just like if you know anything about hiking or land navigation, if you're just a few degrees off of your correct heading, by the time you get 2 miles, 4 miles, 10 miles away, you are pretty far off heading. The same thing is true with lying. You only want to lie a little bit off of the actual truth. If you make up a cover story that's just 2 or 5 degrees away from true, then by the time somebody ever suspects that you might be lying, you're so far away from the truth that they don't really have any concept of who you might be. They just know who you say you are in your cover legend. And it's very easy for you to remember all the details of your cover legend because 95% of what you're saying is true. So instead of being 40, I might say I'm 42, or I might say that I'm 38. That's just a small difference, but after 10 minutes of conversation, 15 minutes of conversation, 20 minutes of conversation, people are not even going to suspect that I might be 40. They're just going to believe that I'm either 38 or 42 or whatever number I gave them. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I currently live in Florida. I'm building a cover story right now where I grew up in Florida, and I'm living in Texas. It's very, very similar. If I live on the Gulf Coast of Texas, it's not that different from living on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So it's just a few degrees off difference. So if somebody asks me some wacky question about what it's like to live on the beach in Texas, I can just visualize in my mind what it's like to live off of the coast in Florida and answer most of their questions probably pretty true to form. So that's why you want to lie just a few degrees off. I don't have to say anything about growing up in Pennsylvania. I know enough about Florida from actually living there that I can visualize and assume, and my wife grew up in Florida, so I actually have enough real knowledge to be able to pull off the lie of growing up in Florida and then living in Texas rather than growing up in Pennsylvania and living in Florida. Again, that's that same concept of just a few degrees difference. I'm going to be very honest that I have a wife. I'm going to be honest that I have 2 kids. I'm going to be honest that I have a master's degree in business administration from USF. Those are all details that could follow a human being anywhere, under any story, anywhere in the world. So you want to base your cover story in reality so that you don't end up stumbling over some silly detail that you're trying to make up that is, pretty far from the truth. Now, once you kind of have your 2 degrees, 5 degrees off of true story in your head, when you can visualize it, like close your eyes and actually see yourself, this is my house, this is my family, this is my education, these are my friends, this is what it looks like to go to work today, this is what it looks like when I eat dinner, this is what my dining room looks like, whatever. When you can visualize what your cover story life looks like and feels like, the next thing you have to do is actually practice verbalizing it. And this was something that really struck me today as I'm getting ready for the show, because I've been spending like a day and a half researching my cover identity and going through all of the really detailed heavy thinking and heavy processing, writing my notes, going through the exercise in my mind of what are some logical questions people would ask. And then I start verbally practicing it today, and I realize there is a disconnect between what you think and how your mouth actually moves. So as an example, my mouth is very familiar. It's like muscle memory when I say the word Florida, when I say the word Tampa, when I talk about my family. All that stuff comes out really smooth. But as soon as I practice, I live in Texas. Now it's different, right? Even the intonation is different. I live in Florida. I live in Texas. You've got to practice what you're going to say. Practice verbalizing. using the muscles in your mouth, your vocal cords, your lips, your tongue, actually verbalize your cover, your lies out loud so that you can build up some of that muscle memory. Because when I go to convince people that I actually am a hotel customer service rep living off the coast of Texas, I need to sound like that's believable. And if I'm sitting there saying, I'm a customer service representative living in South Padre Island, Texas, like it just it's just off enough that somebody might wonder, like, is that really what you are? That doesn't mean they're going to assume that you're what you're trying to hide, but they are going to question whether what you're saying is true. So that cover story has to be close to home so that you have strong muscle memory and strong recall, being able to fill in details. But you also need to stop and actually take the time to verbally practice lying out loud. Because when you lie out loud, you're building up the muscle memory in your mouth and your tongue to be able to speak convincingly, speak rapidly, speak openly, speak personably, and all those things are really important. Okay, so enough about lying. How do you crack somebody else's cover story? Now, this is going to be fun because as part of the show, I actually have to break my own cover and then turn the tables and try to find other people who are lying. So I've been trying to practice both skills as I've been in quarantine here in California for a while. Anyways, so the skills that go into being able to crack somebody else's cover story are that you have to assume that they have practiced, similar to what I just told you to do. Assume that they have practiced. They have thought through their cover story. If they're skilled at lying, then they found a way to make it 5 degrees off of true. And what you really want to do is make sure that you find a way to pin your questions on them in an area that they are unprepared for. So as an example, it's great to talk about feelings. Instead of asking people about facts, ask them about feelings. You know, where do you work? What is your job? How long have you worked there? They're going to have answers for that. Now you say, how do you feel about your job? How did you feel when you first took the job? Is the job disappointing or encouraging? What do you think you're going to do next with your job? All of those incur feelings. And what's awesome about feelings is people telling the truth, they just answer questions about feelings. They don't have to process because they've all got feelings. So it's really easy to answer a question honestly about feelings. If somebody doesn't actually have feelings and they get asked a question, they have to pause for a moment to logically walk through how would I feel if that thing that they just asked me was true. So when you ask about feelings and it takes longer than a second or two for someone to respond, if you look at their face and they break eye contact because they have to go into some sort of mental review or mental inventory of their lie to try to think through how they would probably feel about something like that, big hint that you're cracking through a cover story. And then the last big thing that I want to say whenever you're trying to crack a cover story is rapid fire questions that go one level deeper each time. So whenever you're asking somebody, let's say you're asking about feelings, or let's say something other than feelings. Let's say you're asking about their educational history, and you say, hey, where did you go to school? They say, I went to USF. What did you study at USF? Oh, I studied, marine biology. What was your favorite marine biology course? You see how we're going deeper and deeper, and it's forcing them to go deeper and deeper into that truth. Now, what the real kicker is when you dig as deep as you can, then you take them in one question from the deep detail all the way to a separate but related topic. So their favorite class in marine biology was amphibious animals or whatever, deep sea underwater life. And then you say to them, when they're in that deep detailed place, you say, how did you end up being a customer service rep if you were interested in fish, right? Now, that if it's a true story that they're telling you, they're going to have an immediate answer for how they went from this detailed topic to how they are where they are now. But if they've got a cover story, they're trying, again, the same thing's going to happen like what happens when you talk about emotions. They're going to go through this mental process of saying, how do I connect this thing that I just said with this other thing that I said before? And that pause, that it doesn't matter if they look up left or if they look up right, down left, down right, all that eye stuff is kind of baloney when it comes to lie detection. What you're really looking for is changes in behavior. When somebody can rapidly answer a question back to back to back, and then they pause, you haven't asked them a thoughtful question. You've asked them a logical follow-up question. The pause is because they have to connect the logic in their own head. Now, if you do those two things, if you talk about emotions and if you do a series of questions in rapid fire that dig deeper into a specific topic and then run it out to a related topic or distant related topic, if you do that 2 or 3 times in 2 or 3 different areas, you'll very quickly see if there's a repetitive behavior that shows that they're pausing when you ask those questions. And if the behavior is repetitive, there's a strong chance you've got someone lying to you, and you need to press on that and crack that story open. But if someone's able to consistently answer quickly to your satisfaction, then you've got someone who's telling the truth, and you don't have a cover story in front of you at all. So there you go in a nutshell, how to make a cover story, how to break a cover story, and as soon as I can tell you the details about the show that I'm on and when it goes live, I'll let you see how I do on air. Take care, everybody.